Google. Let's go get him again.
Welcome back to the Robe Zoe channel. I'm your host, Mark, and welcome to your Sampling Samples Subscriber's Choice, your choice, which was Terre Hermes Eau Givree from the brand, of course, of Hermes. So this is the recent fresh flanker from the brand. Now, with the recent discontinuation of this thing right here, Eau Très Fraîche, this fragrance right here, and look at that dent. Possibly, I think personally, my favorite from the line. Now, I'm a huge Terre Hermes guy. Jean-Claude Helena is my favorite nose of all time. So the original Eau de Toilette, I absolutely loved. It just utilizes a lot of notes that he loves utilizing, and Eau Très Fraîche really just amplified that. It reminded me of some other works from Jean-Claude Helena. So I was a huge fan of Eau Très Fraîche. I understand why it was discontinued because IFRA. And once that happened, they decided that they did want to continue the fresh version of Terre. So they have a darker one with the Eau Intense Vetiver, and now they have their fresher version, which is the Givree. So I love Helena's style and what he has done at Hermes, and Terre was basically his signature and his smash hit for the brand personally. Now, when Nigel touches Terre, I think she does it with all the respect in the world to Helena. So when Eau Très Fraîche got discontinued, it was time for a new fresh take. Now, Eau Très Fraîche was signature Helena personally at his strongest. I really like that. Eau Très Fraîche reminded me, and I'm going to go, sorry, a little off camera here, Bigarade Concentré, Frédéric Malle. This is a niche release, if you don't know. Jean-Claude Helena composed this, and Eau Très Fraîche reminded me of that. Now, Eau Très Fraîche wasn't as fresh. It had that freshness, but it really had a backbone. And a lot of fresh fragrances really have a hard time having a backbone to them. I felt this is where Helena shines, and what he did with Eau Très Fraîche, it wasn't everybody's, like the spices in there really are his signature, and a lot of people don't like that. Really excited about it because of course it's a fresher take. So Eau Très Fraîche was my favorite Terre Hermes flanker. So what can Nigel do with, of course, a fresher take of the original Terre? And I remember when this got released, it was all over, plastered on YouTube. People were loving it. Reviewers were loving it. So we're gonna get my take here today off a little sample, of course, so it's not as in-depth as a fragrance review from me, but you're going to get my initial thoughts on it. Let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on Eau Givree. Release date was back in 2022, so it's a recent release. Concentration, different from the Eau de Toilette version of Eau Très Fraîche, which was an EDT. This is a Eau de Parfum, so an EDP version, which can be a double-edged sword. Nose, Christine Nagel, of course, the in-house perfumier for Hermes. The notes, published notes, very minimal. And you can tell when reviewers struggle when there's only 3 notes in a fragrance. They struggle to actually give out their thoughts on a release, and a lot of the notes are top notes on here. But the notes that are strong to me is the Timmer, which is new to my nose. Honesty is the best policy. Timmer is new to my nose. I didn't know about this. Close cousin of Sichuan pepper. Interesting. Nigel knows how to use Sichuan pepper. She utilized it in Eau Intense Vetiver from Terre. So I'm looking forward to that. Juniper, again, the gin-like, and citron. So let's get into it. Let's sniff out Eau Givree. So I got my little sample here. It's a very generous sample, a huge sample. It's one that I actually purchased from a decanting company. I'm trying to remember what it was. myfragrancesamples.com apparently. So I'm just going to, apparently I had a lot left, but kind of just destroy this sample and let's sniff. Now the opening of Eau Givree is very promising. If you're new to the fragrance game, this citrus will blow your mind. To me, it brings me to Pampelune from Guerlain, which is a grapefruit opening. It's a huge compliment to Hermes and Nigel, as Pampelune is the best grapefruit in the game. And it really took me aback a little bit because this Terre is based on this bitter orange. They went a different direction here with the grapefruit. And again, the same type of family, but a different opening. Now that is paired with a lemon, a citron. The opening of Givree is what people love, and I could see why. Versus a lot of the designer citruses out there, this is gonna blow you away. Now, I have that experience that, you know, a Samplin and among others, there is some out there, they're rare, but there is some designer fragrances that do citruses really well, and this is actually one of them. It's absolutely gorgeous. The citruses, they sparkle, they're a little tart. You get the sweetness, you get the rind, you even get the peel of the citrus. It really is full, three-dimensional. That's what you want from your citruses. Hermes is, I wouldn't say, well, they're kind of known for their citruses. Not really, but it really is well done here. And it's grapefruit and lemon citron. So you get a little, also you get a little bit of that orange, and that's where it's not in the note breakdown. You get that little bit of that bitter orange from Terre DNA, but that is a third wheel here. It's not even listed in the note breakdown. The citruses are top notch, authentic to a T, and that's a rare thing in designers. So kudos to them, very invigorating, very well done citrus. Now, once that dies down for a bit, burns off, this is paired with a juniper berry, which gives a familiar or aromatic. So there's some green tendencies here. There's that pine, so there's going to be a little bit of a woody touch here. It'll definitely remind you of gin, but very well balanced. And that opening, again, Hermes quality through and through. And that's one thing that when you're buying a tired release, no matter what your taste is, personally, I feel the quality is there. You are buying a premium designer fragrance like this versus a Y from YSL or a Zorro's and stuff like that. This makes those things look childish. And this release, same thing. This scent at this point is where this whole imagery comes in of Givree, you know, frosted, and they have the frosted glass on their fragrance for a reason, the fragrance bottle. The scent at this point feels cold, icy. It's sharp. The citruses are very sharp. They're juicy at the same point. It reminds me of, picture this, a grapefruit lemon grove together, and they went through a cold spell. You know, you're the owner of the grove. You go outside and it's kind of a sad moment, but there's fog all over. It was a cold morning, so there's fog. It's a little cold. The citruses have a little frost on them. You're like, oh, should have collected these. It's wet. There's a watery aspect, and you get all that in here. There's that frost off the grapefruit and the grove, the stems. Earthiness is there a little bit. There's a little mineral quality at the same time that, of course, known in the Terre series. Really more emphasizing the citruses and less of the earth that Terre is known for. So in this opening, you get such a small, minute idea of the original in here that is slightly there to remind you this is a Terre release. So that bitter orange is really light, like super light. The mineral quality, it's there. The woody aspect is slight, but still there. The earthy quality is probably the most muted out of all the notes in the original Terre. It almost makes you think that this is a Terre d'Hermes, that if you don't like Terre, you'll like this. It is the lightest of the bunch, which makes sense, but it's also the less Terre one of the whole bunch. Timur is a new note to my nose. It's a close cousin of Sichuan pepper, which isn't new to the Terre series. Of course, she utilized it in Eau Intense Vetiver. And Timur gives off a grapefruit vibe, and it surely does here. If it's from this note, there's tons of it in here. It is your central theme in this opening with that lemon. Now, going into the mid, you know, that's where the fragrance really shines, is this opening to the start of the mid. Once you start going into hour two, in the mid, you start noticing that they trimmed a lot, and I want to emphasize a lot, off of the original. It's thin. This thing is really thin. The back end is so thin that it's trying to prolong the opening. I understand the idea. I see where they're going with this. This is the thinnest one of the whole bunch. Personality out the window. There's not much after this opening as far as personality goes. The vetiver that is strong in most Terre Hermes is a non-factor here. The vetiver is clean, don't expect much earthy quality. There's some woody aspects here that remind me of cedar, very mild. There's some minute little floral tendencies here, but other than that, this back end has been stripped. And that is one of my little nudges in regards to this release. And you're gonna see at the back end of this fragrance review of that, wow, great opening. And you know, I don't want to call it a money grab, because a great opening is a great opening. If you can do that, it'd be better than most designer releases. Hermes can certainly do that. But I expect quality from the brand, which means there is more of a back end to it. Chanel's, Dior, Hermes, these are brands that I'm expecting a back end, you know, something that I can grasp onto. In here, I could not, and again, it's from a little sample, so I only got like a couple wearings out of this. A little disappointed, honestly. They trimmed quite a bit. So overall, it's an Hermes release. You can smell it from the start. Versatile. Easy to wear, dress it up, dress it down. Smells very authentic, yes. Does it fall together all well? Yes. Blended, perfection. Signature scent worthy? Yeah, why not? Great takeaways. The opening is absolutely outstanding. It is one of the better ones out there as far as a citrus appeal. It reminds me a little bit of Tide. The back end, not so much. It really is lacking a lot. Might be the worst Tide release in my personal, and again, as far as personality goes, as far as Tide, it is a DNA that's not for everyone. So people are going to come at me because I'm saying this, is because it's more forgiving than the eau de toilette. It's more forgiving than the eau très fraîche. Yes, the spices in eau très fraîche can get some people. Eau intense vetiver. Again, it has some intensity to it. It has some bite to it. There's a lot of vivid stuff in there that may not appeal to everyone. So I see that trifecta being kind of alienating certain people and people gravitating towards Eau Givree. It is more pleasing. You know, that's what designer brands want to do, sell units, of course. But I really like the personality of the earlier versions of Tide. Now let's get into seasons, day, night, versatility, and performance. A lot of great information here for 2 wearing seasons. I feel like this is, again, it can be a signature scent fragrance. But seasons, this is mostly geared for summer and spring, start of fall. The performance kind of hurts it as far as the signature goes, but I can see that. So seasons, it's almost anything. Like if this is your office scent, I wouldn't hate you. It's a pretty good office scent. Day or night, daytime. I feel like the personality of it is kind of gone at night. Like summer night could work, spring, yeah. Versatility, high. Again, a worthy contender for a signature scent. Like if you're looking at 2022, 2023 releases, and you're just looking at those, this would be one of those that I would say, yeah, definitely go check it out for a signature scent. Performance. This is all over the spectrum in fragrance reviews. I'll tell you what I'm getting. Longevity was kind of weak on this one, and the old telltale adage for fragrance reviewers that not every fragrance needs to be beast mode. If you're buying a citrus fragrance, it'll never last. False. Honestly, yes, there's fragrances built for certain things. They don't always have to be 10 plus hours, of course not. But as far as build goes, I feel like longevity, again, 4 to 6 hours. It was really struggling to hit that 6 to 7 hour mark with below average projections. So the lack of a backbone really hurts this release, and you can be fresh with a backbone. Honestly, it's just they decided to really strip it down to really emphasize the introduction. The lack of a backbone, again, double-edged sword. You make the scent continue to be fresh throughout the hours, but you lose out on longevity and projection, personally. So this one, very, I'd say, poor performance, honestly. One of the worst from the Hermes lineup, personally. So at the end of the day, my final thoughts on Eau Givree. Well, I think this does a better refreshing top note than Eau Fraîche, both excellent. But honestly, the Eau Très Fraîche trumps this in overall scent profile. The scent lost steam in the back end, while Eau Très Fraîche had more of a backbone. Now, Eau Givree is probably my favorite tide in my collection. I feel like that's a 10 out of 10 personally. And this is still an excellent scent. Like, it still has that Hermes quality. And that's one thing I want to say personally in this, is that I'm comparing it against the line, and maybe unfairly, I feel it's like one of the weaker ones, pun intended, as far as drawing up this fragrance. It feels like it's missing a lot of pieces, and this is still an excellent scent all around. Comparing it to the others may be a disservice to it. This is the tide for the people that don't like Terre Hermes, but like Hermes quality. That's where I'm going with this. I prefer the Eau Givree because it has so much more personality than this one. It has that texture. It has different things going on with it. And that is something that I like. A lot of people don't like spices in their fragrances. They might not. It's a very solid release. It's an okay release as far as Hermes standards go. It's a very solid release against all designers. I expect more from Hermes personally, so maybe I'm being a little harsh on Hermes, but someone needs to. So reviewers do fall in love with the authentic opening, but they forget about the back end of this and how kind of flat this one came in. And comparing this opening to several designers against the Azzaros, the Givenchy's, it does not, like, there's no comparison against those. They just don't have that quality that an Hermes has or a Chanel can have. So I can see why people will fall in love with this once you're smelling some Valentinos and stuff like that, and you smell this and you're like, oh my God. Yeah, it's a big step up. So it's a step back for Hermes, but it's a step up for other designer lines. So double-edged sword. I like it. I don't love it. Am I going to get a bottle? Yeah, it's on the cusp of getting a bottle, basically. So if I had to give it a score, which I always do with sampling samples, I'm going to give this one a very solid 8 out of 10. It's not a 9. It's not a 10. It's not a masterpiece. The opening, absolutely gorgeous. Love the tricks. I think Nigel in the past has done these frosty type of fragrances before. It's one of her tricks in her bag, which I absolutely love. Not too many noses can do that. She does it well. She's done a few of those throughout her journey, of course, with Jo Malone and other brands. So I could see that, and that's something different from Elena, which is putting her own stamp on it, being fresh at the same time. Very, very well done. The back end is missing a lot. To me personally, I think if you added a few more things, amped it up, and I understand it would kind of alleviate the Givree side of this. But 8 bottles out of 10, again, a review that's just there. You know, I'm not here to blow smoke over it and saying it's the best thing ever since sliced bread, but it's not a horrible release. Of course, you compare this to something from Azzaro, this is blowing that out of the water. So at the end of the day, bottle worthy, yes, it's right on the cusp. Like, I'm a collector of the Hermes series, as you can see. You saw all my bottles, so it's going to be one that I will cop, and I can't wait to actually wear it more, because the sample, of course, only gives me a couple wearings. So now that you heard my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. What do you think about this release? Love to see the different comments on this particular release. I know it had a lot of hype in the fragrance community. I'm not as high on it as others are, which is okay. I'm allowed to give my opinion. That's why I have a channel. And as always, a great report fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your Terre Hermes flanker wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.